This is the virtual happy hour experience with the Drunken Grape. I am your show host, Rob, and today we have a brilliant guest. We are continuing the theme from last week and the week before. We had AI. Then we talked about real estate and how virtual house tours and AI and using technology are boosting a growing segment of online buyers from the pandemic. Well, today we have another expert in social media marketing, Amazon Live. We're going to talk about how to use Amazon Live, some tips into maximizing yourself on social media from Fusion Marketing, my good friend and military or Marine Corps veteran. A big salute to that. Jim Fuse, how are you, buddy?
Great to be here, Rob. Appreciate you having me on. And I was funny, right? It's a small world. You had Jerry on talking about AI, and I met Jerry pre-pandemic, and he's actually in my area. He's a really smart guy. So, but great to be here.
It's really great to have you too. I mean, it's Jerry Abiog. So talking disruption and AI, everyone was terrified of it pre-pandemic. Oh my God, you're taking my job. Well, first of all, a lot of those jobs, do you really want to do them anymore outside of being service staff on a restaurant floor? And for those trying to put robots in and they're panicking about that to bartend or serve, this has been a gimmick with Royal Caribbean for 20 years, in Asia for 20 years. Nobody cares about it. They still go to the live bartender to communicate. Those are experiences, because anything service-based with experience is going to require human beings. But yeah, he's brilliant. And, AI, as far as shops, as far as dealing with labor shortages, wiping out unnecessary admin staff to do a lot of the things you can by augmenting it and putting in, robotic implementation or automation through AI and use of bots makes things much more effective if you're an entrepreneur. So in the spin-off of that, you're a live show expert. You have the Jim and Tim show, or is it the Tim and Jim show? I was really happy to be on just about a couple of weeks ago. Got to talk about virtual tastings, what I do. I know you're a social media marketing guru. I also see that you're really booming on Amazon Live, and there's a huge play for entrepreneurs there. Talk to us a bit about this and how you got started on your journey, and what got you out of the Marine Corps, something entirely different, to pursue what you're pursuing today.
Yeah. So I've been retired for about 13 years from the Marines in coming August, and I retired as a lieutenant colonel. I was actually in the financial management, contracting, logistics field. But even like back when, do you remember when we had like modems? Dial-up modems. I was always kind of a nerd, a tech geek. And so I used to build computers back in the, I guess it was the mid 90s. And then eventually it just got to the point, right? You're better off just buying a new computer instead of trying to keep upgrading it. So I was the guy that, hey, can you come replace my hard drive or replace my modem card? But then I started to have kids, kind of like got sidetracked from all that. But I would still buy video games. I got, when Apple came out with the iPhone, I was all over that. And so I was into the consulting field post-retirement, but then I, started to see that these people were doing social media, because I would go to these conferences, and it's like, they're getting paid to do that. I was, because I'm like analytical, and I'd go look at what they're posting. It's like, I can do that. So I had a couple of friends that had some businesses, and I said, hey, would you let me do your social media for you? So that's how I got started in about 2015, 2016. And it just kind of ramped up. And then the live streaming thing was really partially because, one of the things we don't think about is like all the platforms usually tell you this is what we're looking for. And back in about 2017, 18, Facebook said, we want live video. And so I ended up being a guest on a show, met Tim. He saw me on the show. He invited me to be on his show. And I guess, as they say, the rest is history. And so now I've done over 400 live shows on camera. And, I also produce shows for companies as a remote live stream producer. So that's all in the last, 4 years. I've been able to build that up by being consistent. And I think that's where people, fall short in a sense, is they don't think about that consistency. But what I love about the live streaming or, podcasts, have a couple of those as well, is that you're able to get your message out to an audience, engage with them. And when you're live, right, you get that real time engagement and they feel like they're a part of it. And it's not going to go away.
No.
I'm a Toastmaster, and we just had an event, our annual conference. It was hybrid. And I did a workshop on video and talking about all the different, microphones and things you can do to kind of build your way to where you have, like we do, these Shure MV7s, and I've got a Sony camera, but I wasn't always that way, right? I started out with the webcam and the microphone that was in my computer, but as you learn, you can quickly level yourself up within a reasonable amount of money. And then over the past couple of years, because this is the Drunken Grape, I've become quite the connoisseur of wine and bourbon. So
Nice. On that note, cheers to the happy hour, ladies and gentlemen. Cheers to you, Tim. Smash the like, subscribe to the show, share the content. When you subscribe, hit the notification
I'm going to
bell.
I'm going to put some Whiskey Pig in here a little bit neat. So yes, got to join you.
Yes, and ladies and gentlemen,
or Whistle Pig.
Just going back, Whistle Pig. That's cool. Just going back. Yes. Make sure to hit the notification bell to all when you do subscribe, so you don't miss any content. Cheers to you, Whistle Pig Bourbon. Before I talk about Chardonnay, one of the noble grapes in the world. What is Whistle Pig exactly? I know that the whole bourbon area is a delineated zone of production like Scotch. You have to have a sour mash, which is a sour beer. That's beer that is distilled minus the hops. 6 to 8% beer. They distill it, 2 or 3 times, depending on the style. If they want a rougher style and a more rustic style, much like Scotch, you'll distill it twice in copper pots. Or they'll use column distillers and distill it 3 times. And that difference in that brings your abbreviated spirit to usually about 63% or 96 to 98%, in which case both are actually watered down with distilled water to 40, 45, 46% from that point. So talk to us a bit about bourbon. I love it. That mash is 51% maize or corn or more. Corn is prolific. Talk to us about bourbon. What got you into that? That's awesome.
So we had a friend that we had one of those parties where, we only had a small group of us that had been around each other, because you were only supposed to have so many people early on in what's been going on. And this guy loves bourbon, so we did a tasting, and that opened my eyes. I was like, wow, because I had always thought of bourbon as Jack Daniels and Maker's Mark, and now I've found those are just the kids stuff. There's so much out there, and so I got several here. I've got this Smoke Wagon, which is amazing.
Nice.
I've got Eagle Rare, is another of my favorites.
It's a great bourbon.
Yeah, and then you got the Four Roses. This is another great one.
I've had that too. Excellent.
Yeah, and so one of my goals now is that we're going to do a bourbon tour here, hopefully within the next year. Because being in Atlanta, I'm not that far from Louisville, Kentucky, and there's a bunch of bourbon distilleries up there, and so it's just been fascinating learning about the flavors and everything else. And so, I know I talked to you since we were on the show. It's you know what? I actually want to get more educated on this because it's fun, right? I can see why you enjoy what you're doing, because you're learning about something that people always want to have a conversation about.
Yeah, and it's what I like about bourbon, I find it richer than Scotch. It doesn't have that peatiness that, not everyone's into that smoky flavor of Scotch. In fact, Glenfiddich finished in rich oak, American oak, for its past 3 months, which adds more of a coconut vanilla flavor to it. It's a richer texture. Oak adds tannin, and when you use bourbon barrels, they're using new American oak, so it's more concentrated. It's a richer, warmer, almost sweeter style. I mean, that's the glycerol aspect of alcohol that gets you into thinking it's sweeter, but often, obviously, spirits are dry. But it's those elements that people prefer bourbon often over Scotch. I'm one of them. I'm not a big fan of that smokiness and the peatiness or the brininess if it's along Isla or Campbelltown along the ocean, where you get a lot of sea spray around the distillery. All these things influence it. Environment influences a ton of things. But They use old bourbon barrels, you use old Scotch barrels. In the case of bourbon, you use new barrels. You're not going to find things aged as long because it's not in neutral oak. It's an oak that concentrates the flavors and it adds resin into the product itself. You see what happens when it ferments? Fermentation heats up temperature in a barrel. All those sugars are being chewed up and converted into alcohol, right? So what's happening there is, that's the basis of it in fermentation. Yeast consumes sugar, turns to alcohol. Then they distill it. What happens is they really knock out as much of the water and other impurities as they can, and it goes into spirit safe. The term spirit or angel share is the part that they lose while it's aging in barrel over a year. So you can lose 2% a year, and they called it the angel share. Now, what happens with spirits is they age, and the fermentation temperature, or just the temperature of aging in barrel rather, because it is already fermented. Sorry, it is past that stage. Heats up and it sweats into the product itself or into the wood, and it actually takes on some of the tannic structure of it. It also goes from a clear liquid and caramelizes over time because there's subtle micro bits of air coming through the entire time. So it slowly oxidizes and adds a lot of richness to it. You get a lot of caramel and honeyed notes. You can get dried fruit notes. You can get notes of nuttiness in there. It is really a cool science. Moving to Chardonnay. This is one of the great noble grapes. This is from Ontario, Inniskillen Wineries. This is just a simple unoaked Chardonnay. Chardonnay is an ancient grape, comes from the Burgundy region of France. It's a crossing between Pinot Noir and an ancient grape called Gouais Blanc, which is also responsible for other grapes like Riesling. Get a lot of apple inflections. It also has an affinity for oak because of the acidity. It draws off and lowers the acidity and adds body and creaminess and a buttery texture to it when you age it in barrel. It's one of the noble grape varieties that you can find anywhere in the world where there are very high quality producers, whether you're in California, the Niagara Escarpment, you're in Australia, you're in New Zealand, you're in France and Burgundy, you could be in parts of Italy, Argentina, across the world. It is the second most widely cultivated white grape on the planet. So lots you can do, and pairing with food is always what people get excited about. I find this goes well with things like fish, chicken, as it's unoaked, has a bit of acidity. This has some citrus and strong apple notes in it, yellow apple or golden apple, for instance. Goes well with things like oysters, shellfish, goes well with calamari. So, lots of things you can do there. Bourbon, it's a great, great thing. It's a great spirit. Glad you're in it. So to move along with the show, talk to us a bit about Amazon Live and how to, because you are a social media marketing guru. What's your tips and tricks just to help some people out getting into this piece of business? Because it is the Wild West. It's wide open right now for those that are savvy enough to maximize. Do you have any technology tips? We were talking in the green room that you'd like to share with some people?
Yeah. So a couple things is, first of all, to get approved, you're gonna want to become an Amazon associate. They actually have an influencer program in Canada. They're not letting you do the videos yet, but you could get a storefront. But you could also apply to be Amazon US, and I know several people that have done that. But even like with this show, if you're talking about products that are on Amazon, you could put that link in your show notes and ideally start to drive some revenue off of that. But once you get approved, you really want to have a show that has some sort of a theme. You got people doing different, niches, people talking about, fitness, people talking about car stuff, people doing classes on how to draw, because they have all the products in the carousel. So we'll do things like we'll use overhead camera so I can demonstrate the item I'm talking about. So as an example, I talk about this Samson Q2U microphone. Nice. I can show people, hey, here's where the XLR and the USB plugins, and then you can also do product videos. And so where that can benefit you is companies will start to reach out to you. In fact, this microphone I'm using here by Shure, we just recently partnered with Shure and are now, starting to use Shure products that we weren't, we were already using them, but now they said, hey, we really like what you guys are doing. We'd like to do some other things. And we're actually doing a giveaway of a Shure special microphone on our May the 4th episode, which is going to be all about Star Wars. So that'll be fun.
Oh, cool.
And,
May the 4th be with you, of course.
May the 4th be with you, yes. And so you can really have a lot of fun. You get a live audience. You can interact with them. You got millions of sellers, right? Literally millions of sellers on Amazon. They're trying out, how can I sell more products? And that's where you can become that expert for them. And so, whether it's using, StreamYard or Ecamm or Wave Video, you want to have a good show. You want to have something that's going to catch people's attention. And you don't have to be a live streamer to get started. You're going to want to if you want to do the live stuff. But the biggest thing is you're going to have to build up that following, whether it be YouTube, Facebook business, TikTok, or Instagram. And, they don't tell us how many though you need, but people want to reach out to me. I can definitely help them get down that path. That's why I say, even if you can't get approved right away, become that associate. And if you're already talking about things, talking about products, why not put that link in your socials? Because if people click on it and make a purchase, you're going to get anywhere from 1% to 4% of the price of that item sent to you.
That adds up. And is Dealcast behind you? Is that part of the Amazon streaming? I see the poster.
Yeah, that's our show, right? We've come up with a whole logo and everything else. We're actually doing an in-person event in Orlando at the end of May as part of VidFest. So it's definitely brought us a lot of exposure, me and my friend Chris Stone. And we love what we love about the show. It's kind of like what you do with the Drunken Grape is we're educating people about tech. Right, we're talking to people, like I've got this right here inside of here. This is, and I don't know if you've used this. This is the Rode Wireless Go 2 microphone.
No, I've got a cabled lavalier mic from them, but that is an awesome piece of tech that you've got in your hands there.
So this actually comes with two two microphones, so you can have two people, and I think the range is 600 feet line of sight. So you could be, you can do a lot with that, right? So especially as we start talking about hybrid, this is a great piece of gear. I actually used it when I was doing a workshop last week so that I could record myself on my phone from, that was a different camera, just so I could have that as well. And so, there's really a lot of things. I think one thing that's exciting is that this is continuing to evolve right now, where before there's just a couple companies, you've got multiple companies doing, things like, what do you want to call it? All the live streaming software that's browser based. So you don't necessarily have to have a, really powerful computer letting you do things visually that will catch people's attention. And so I think that's one of the things that's really important for people. And and you can see here, we got a YouTube channel for the Tim and Jim Show, and you want to go back and watch this episode. Yeah, Rob was amazing.
I just put that up there, but this showcases, might even play this for a minute. This showcases what expertise you have just on the audio visual. Like, we're just going to show the intro. I think you had somebody else here in the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we may have frozen there a little bit. I'm just going to get back to this.
That's technology. It happens.
It happens. But the whole point of that was to showcase to you what you do on a professional level with sound, music, entertainment, visual coming in. And you guys nail it. Like, that intro music gets you into that show. And,
right,
going back to as well, you showed the Samsung microphone. Can't remember the exact name of that, but that's a great microphone as an entry-level mic.
This is the Q2U. It's about $60-$70. Sometimes it's even on sale for less than that. I used this for probably over 2 years before I just recently switched to this Shure, and I still use this on my other computers. You can hook it up to your phone if you want to pretend like you're doing like a interview out in play. Because what people don't realize, and you do, like with these Shures that we're using, we have to be near the microphone for it to pick up.
Right.
Some of these other microphones, like and they're not bad. You can get them to work right, but like the Blue Yeti picks up sound from everywhere.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have a really well soundproof studio, you need to be aware of that. And because audio is, and I talked about this last week, audio is actually the most important thing in a video.
Yes.
More so than anything else.
Yes.
Because sometimes, like I might be listening to the Drunken Great, but I'm not watching it because I'm busy. So I'll forgive the video issues, but I'm not going to forgive audio issues. That's the one thing that'll drive people crazy and drive them away if it's really bad audio.
That's really, really good insights. And I'm going to take a look here on share one other thing up on this screen. It is your LinkedIn profile. We're going to close the show because we are coming up to wrap up time. But ladies and gentlemen, as I bring this up here, make sure to reach out to Jim. There he is on LinkedIn, Fusion Marketing. This guy is brilliant. He's growing his following steadily and organically just by producing brilliant content. That's the other thing. Numbers aren't really the tail of the tape on everything you do. It's the concentration and the quality of people you have tuning into what you are doing that counts, often for more, because those are the people that are going to reach out and buy from you. And here he is. So, right. LinkedIn, definitely a great way to reach out to Jim. Jim, you've been a tremendous guest. It's always a pleasure. I've gotten to know you a bit very recently, and, I see we align a lot. We've got a lot of good views, share common views, and I feel blessed to have you on the show. Thank you once again, and cheers to you. Cheers to you, ladies and gentlemen, viewing this show. Listen, whatever you decide to do, have a terrific day. This is Rob and Jim from The Drunken Great.